The galaxy changed after the standoff at Earth. The change wasn't immediate or dramatic, but like water slowly wearing away stone, it was unstoppable. Admiral Kratos returned to Draxian space expecting execution. Instead, he found something unexpected: division. Half the Draxian military supported his decision. They saw a commander who valued warrior lives over imperial pride. The other half demanded his punishment for disobeying the Emperor. The trial became a spectacle broadcast across Draxian worlds. Kratos stood in the imperial court, facing Emperor Draxel's judgment. The admiral didn't defend himself or make excuses. He simply stated facts. I calculated that attacking would cost 70% of the fleet. I judged that this cost was too high for the objective. I made a military decision based on tactical reality. You made a coward's decision, the prosecutor argued. The Empire's honor demanded action. Honor, Kratos replied quietly, should not require the deaths of thousands of loyal warriors to punish one species for defending their child. If that's what our honor means, then perhaps we need to reconsider what honor is. The words shocked the court. Draxians didn't question honor, but the admiral's supporters cheered. The military was splitting between traditionalists and reformers. The Emperor couldn't execute Kratos without risking civil conflict. After weeks of trial, the Emperor reached a compromise. Kratos was stripped of his rank and exiled, but not executed. It satisfied neither side completely, which meant it was political balance. But the damage was done. The Draxian Empire had shown weakness and division. Other species noticed. Meanwhile, Emperor Draxel faced his own problems. The standoff had humiliated the Empire publicly. To save face, he did something no Draxian emperor had done in 300 years. He apologized. The apology came through official diplomatic channels. It was formal and stiff, clearly written by lawyers, but it was an apology nonetheless. The Draxian Empire regrets the incident at Stellar Academy. Prince Vexthor's actions did not reflect imperial values. We extend formal apologies to Park Junho and his family. On Earth, people read the apology with mixed feelings. It felt insincere, forced by circumstances rather than genuine regret. But Ambassador Park accepted it publicly. We accept the Draxian Empire's apology, he announced, not because it's perfect, but because it represents something important. The acknowledgement that might doesn't make right, that even powerful empires must answer for injustice. Prince Vexthor was recalled from Stellar Academy in disgrace. The Emperor stripped him of his royal privileges and enrolled him in a standard military academy on a remote Draxian colony world. No special treatment, no guards, just another cadet. At first, Vexthor was angry and resentful. He blamed the humans for his humiliation, but his instructors at the military academy were veterans who had served under Admiral Kratos. They taught different lessons than the prince expected. Strength without wisdom is just violence, his combat instructor told him after Vexthor bullied a weaker cadet. You were raised to think power gives you the right to dominate others. You were raised wrong. Slowly, painfully, Vexthor began to change. It would take years, but the seed was planted. On Earth, President Han Soo-jin met with representatives from the 42 species who had defended Earth. The meeting took place on Concordia Prime Station, in a large conference hall decorated with flags from every species present. You came when we needed you, President Han said. You risked everything for principles and for a child you didn't know. We will never forget this. A Valix representative spoke up. We didn't do it just for you. We did it for ourselves. You showed us that refusing to submit is possible, that small species can stand together. Then let's make it permanent, President Han suggested. Not a military alliance, but something more. A coalition of species committed to mutual defense against bullying and aggression. We stay small and support each other. Together we're not helpless. Dr. Yoon Sarah had helped draft the proposal. She understood that this wasn't about military power. It was about changing the social dynamics of galactic politics, making it costly for large empires to bully smaller ones. The representatives discussed for 3 days. Then they signed the Concordia Agreement. 42 species committed to defending each other against aggression. It wasn't a military pact that required going to war. It was an agreement to stand together, to provide support, to make bullying unprofitable. The Concordia Alliance changed galactic politics fundamentally. Large empires could still dominate individual small species, but now those small species had friends. An empire that threatened one alliance member faced consequences from 42 others. Not always military consequences, but economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, trade restrictions. The major empires grumbled but adapted. Bullying became more complicated and expensive. Some empires, seeing the shift, began negotiating instead of threatening. Others, like the Draxians, struggled to adjust their culture. At Stellar Academy, life slowly returned to normal. Junho went back to his studies in stellar cartography. His cast came off, his arm healed, and he tried to be just another student. But that was impossible now. He was famous across the galaxy. Students from new species joined the academy, species that had never felt safe sending their children before. They came because of what happened. They came because Junho had shown that the academy would protect all students, not just the powerful ones. Choi Minji was promoted to head of student affairs. Her first act was implementing new rules. Sovereign immunity no longer protected students from academy justice. Royal children and diplomat offspring were subject to the same rules as everyone else. If their governments didn't like it, they could withdraw their students. No one withdrew. Even the Draxian Empire, after internal debate, sent students back to the academy under the new rules. Hana continued posting to the Galactic Network. Her account had grown to 5 billion followers from hundreds of species. She posted about normal things now. Her schoolwork, her hobbies, her brother's embarrassing moments. But occasionally she posted reminders about standing up to bullying, about finding courage, about solidarity. Young people across the galaxy listened to her. A whole generation was growing up with different ideas about power and justice. Lee Hana, age 10, had changed galactic politics by posting a video. She didn't fully understand her impact, but she kept using her voice for good. Ambassador Park Doyon continued his work at the Galactic Council, but with new influence. He had shown that standing on principle could work. Other small species sought his advice. He helped negotiate disputes, always pushing for justice over convenience. Earth became a symbol, not militarily powerful but morally courageous. When galactic debates arose about right and wrong, people asked, what would Earth do? It was strange and uncomfortable for humans. They didn't see themselves as particularly moral, but they had done one thing that mattered. They refused to back down when someone hurt their child. 5 years passed. Junho was 17 now, serving as a junior diplomatic aide on Concordia Prime. He was studying to follow his father's path into diplomacy. He had grown taller, his voice deeper, but he still had the same quiet intensity. One day, a delegation from a newly contacted species arrived at the station. They were the Kellics, a small species from a distant sector. A larger neighboring empire was pressuring them to give up mining rights to their moons. The Kellics didn't know what to do. The Kellics ambassador requested a meeting with Junho specifically. They had heard the story of the human boy who stood up to the Draxian prince. They wanted to meet him. Junho sat across from the Kellics ambassador in a small conference room. The ambassador was nervous, his tentacles twitching with anxiety. Young Park, the ambassador said, my species faces a choice. A powerful empire demands our resources. If we refuse, they threaten economic sanctions, maybe worse. If we agree, we lose our wealth and independence. What should we do? Junho thought carefully before answering. He remembered being 12 years old with a broken arm, scared but refusing to back down. He remembered his father's speech at the Galactic Council. He remembered 368 ships from 42 species standing together. Ambassador, Junho said slowly, I can't tell you what to do. Every situation is different, but I can tell you what I learned. When someone threatens you, you have to decide what matters most. Is keeping peace worth losing your dignity? Is safety worth accepting injustice? But we're small, the ambassador protested. They're so much stronger. So were the Draxians, Junho replied. They had hundreds of warships. Earth had 40. But we decided some things matter more than survival. And when we stood up, we found we weren't alone. He leaned forward. Here's what I learned. Bullies rely on fear. They rely on you staying quiet and accepting injustice because you're too scared to resist. But the moment you say no, even when saying no seems impossible, something changes. You remind yourself that you have dignity, and you inspire others who are also afraid. The Kellics ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Your people almost went to war for one child. You risked everything. We did, Junho agreed, because that's who we want to be. A species that protects our own, that stands for justice, that refuses to let might make right. Was it risky? Yes, but the alternative was teaching our... The great doors of the council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Jinho Park walked through them with his head held high, even though his heart was beating fast. Behind him walked 3 other humans, all wearing the formal uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. The chamber was so large that Jinho felt like an insect walking into a cathedral. Around the circular room sat the representatives of 12 alien species. Each one looked down at the humans from elevated platforms. The Quillari Chancellor sat highest of all, his insect body gleaming under the lights. His 4 eyes watched Jinho without blinking. To his left sat the Luminari, beings made of light and energy that hurt to look at directly. To his right were the Kryn, massive reptilian warriors covered in natural armor plates. Jinho had practiced his speech for weeks. He had memorized every word, every gesture, but now standing in the center of this massive chamber he felt very small. Ambassador Park of Earth. The Chancellor's voice buzzed through translators. You have requested this emergency session. Speak. Jinho stepped forward. His voice came out steady, which surprised him. Honored council members, I come before you today to request military assistance. For the past 6 months, human colonies on the frontier worlds have been under attack by the Vrakan Horde. We have lost 3 settlements. Over 50,000 human civilians are dead. He pressed a button on his datapad. Holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. They showed destroyed buildings, burned fields, and bodies. The council members barely glanced at them. We have tried to defend ourselves, Jinho continued, but the Vrakan forces are too strong. Their biology is superior to ours. They heal faster, hit harder, and can survive injuries that would kill a human instantly. We need the council's help. We need protection. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked together. The council has reviewed your request, Ambassador. We have also reviewed extensive biological data on your species. A new hologram appeared. It showed a human body next to bodies of other species. Numbers and charts floated around each figure. Humans, the Chancellor said, are fragile. Your bones break easily compared to most spacefaring species. You have no natural weapons, no claws, no poison, no armor plates. Your healing ability is slow. Your lifespan is average at best. Your physical strength is below the galactic median. Jinho felt his face grow hot. With respect, Chancellor, we are aware of our biological limitations. That is exactly why we need assistance. A Luminari representative spoke, its voice like music. Ambassador, we do not question your courage in coming here. But the data is clear. Humanity is simply not suited for warfare. You are a civilian species. There is no shame in this. No shame. Jinho's voice rose despite himself. Our people are dying. And sending more of your kind into battle will only result in more death, said a Kryn general. His voice was deep and rumbling. We have seen the reports from your frontier worlds. Your soldiers fight bravely, yes, but bravery without physical capability is merely suicide. The Chancellor raised one clawed hand. The Council will now vote on Earth's request for military protection. One by one, the votes came in. Each species had 1 vote. Jinho watched the board light up. Red light after red light. Denied, denied, denied. All 12 votes were red. The Council has reached a unanimous decision, the Chancellor announced. Humanity is hereby classified as a protected civilian species. You will be granted economic support and relocation assistance for your frontier colonies. However, military intervention is deemed inappropriate. We suggest humanity focus on its strengths: cultural development, trade, and scientific research in non-military fields. Jinho felt something break inside him. You are condemning us to extinction. We are being realistic, the Luminari said softly. Some species are warriors. Others are scholars, artists, builders. There is no dishonor in accepting one's nature. You will have guardianship status, the Chancellor continued. Other Council species will provide security for human worlds, in exchange for reasonable compensation. This is the best solution for everyone. Jinho looked around the chamber. He saw pity in some eyes, indifference in others, but no help. Not one species willing to stand with humanity. I understand, he said quietly. Thank you for your time, honored Council. He turned and walked out. His fellow diplomats followed in silence. The great doors closed behind them with that same thunderous sound. The ride back to Earth took 3 weeks. Jinho spent most of that time in his quarters, staring out at the stars. When the ship finally entered Earth's orbit, he felt no relief, only dread at what he had to report. The meeting room in Geneva was cold and gray. Military officers filled the seats around the long table. At the head sat General Minho Quan, a man in his 50s with gray hair and hard eyes. Next to him was Admiral Hyejin Song, younger but with the same weathered look of someone who had seen combat. Jinho stood and delivered his report. He told them everything. The vote, the classification, the council's decision. When he finished, silence filled the room. Protected civilian species, Minho said finally. His voice was flat. They think we are children who need guardians. They think we are weak, said Admiral Hyejin. They looked at our biology and decided we are not worth saving. They are not entirely wrong, said another general. The Vrakan are physically superior. Their warriors can tear through steel with their bare claws. They survive in vacuum for short periods. They heal from wounds that would kill our soldiers. But they can still die, Minho said. He leaned forward. Anything that can die can be killed. We just need to figure out how. Sir, Jinho said carefully. The council was very clear. If we attempt military action without authorization, we will lose all trade privileges. We could be expelled from the galactic community entirely. Minho looked at him. Ambassador, let me be very clear. The council has decided we are too weak to fight. They have decided to let our people die while they debate compensation packages. I'm not going to sit here and watch that happen. Admiral Hyejin nodded. We mobilize the fleet quietly. We send every available ship to the frontier. What do we tell the council? Jinho asked. Nothing, Minho said. We tell them nothing. Let them watch. Let them see exactly how weak humanity really is. Far away on the frontier world of New Jeju, a young man named Daiho Kim stood on top of a mining facility. He was only 25 years old, but he was the closest thing the colony had to a military commander. He had served 4 years in Earth's Defense Force before moving to the colony to start a new life. Now he watched the sunset and thought about the message he had received that morning. The council had refused to help. The Vrakan would attack again in 3 weeks, maybe less. Behind him, 200 colonists waited. Miners, farmers, engineers, teachers. None of them were soldiers. But all of them had weapons now. Hunting rifles, mining explosives, improvised armor made from vehicle plating. Commander Kim? A young woman approached. Her name was Yuna Choi, and she had been a competitive shooter back on Earth. What do we do? Daiho turned to face her. We do what humans have always done. We survive, no matter what it costs. Yuna nodded slowly. The council thinks we are weak. Then we will show them what weak looks like, Daiho said.
Get everyone together.
We have 3 weeks to turn this colony into a fortress, 3 weeks to become dangerous. As the sun set on New Jeju, the colonists began to work. They dug trenches. They built barricades. They planted mines. They practiced shooting until their hands bled. And they waited for the fire to come. The Vrakan ships came out of the sky like falling stars. Daiho watched them through his scope from the top of the communications tower. He counted 12 landing craft, each one large enough to carry 100 warriors. They were bioships grown rather than built, with skin that looked like black leather and engines that pulsed like beating hearts. Here they come, he said into his radio. All units hold positions. Wait for my signal. Across the colony, 200 humans waited in trenches behind barricades inside buildings. Their weapons were ready. Their hands shook, but they held steady. The Vrakan ships landed in the open field south of the main settlement. The ramps opened and the warriors poured out. They were massive creatures, standing over 2 meters tall, with 4 arms ending in claws that could cut through metal. Their skin was covered in thick scales. Their mouths had 3 rows of teeth. Daiho had studied everything Earth's intelligence had on the Vrakan. They were strong. They were fast. They healed from almost any wound within hours. They had conquered 17 worlds in the past decade. They had never fought humans before. The Vrakan force advanced in a loose formation. They moved with confidence, almost arrogance. They had no cover, no caution. Why would they? Every species they had ever fought broke and ran when they saw Vrakan warriors charging. Daiho waited until they were halfway across the field. Then he pressed the detonator. The ground exploded. The colonists had spent 3 weeks planting mining charges all across that field, hundreds of them connected in a network. The blast sent dirt and rocks and pieces of Vrakan warriors flying into the air. Now, Daiho shouted, "Fire!" Fire everything. 200 rifles opened up. The sound was like thunder that never stopped. Bullets tore through the surviving Vraken. They stumbled, roared, but kept coming. Their biology was impressive. They could survive wounds that would drop a human instantly, but they could not survive 20 bullets to the same spot. Aim for the legs, Deho shouted. Slow them down! The tactics changed. Human shooters began targeting joints and limbs. A Vraken warrior could keep fighting with 5 bullets in its chest. But it could not walk with its knee joint destroyed. The Vraken line faltered. Warriors fell. Others tried to drag the wounded back to the ships. But the humans kept firing, no mercy, no hesitation. A group of Vraken warriors made it to the first barricade. They were met by Taijin Lee and his close combat squad. Taijin had been a construction worker before the attack started. Now he carried a heavy mining drill modified into a weapon. Come on, you ugly bastards, he shouted and fired the drill. The spinning bit tore through Vraken armor. The warrior screamed and fell. 2 more rushed forward. Taijin's squad met them with welding torches, nail guns, and mining picks. It was brutal and ugly. 3 humans died. But 7 Vraken warriors fell and did not get up. From her position in the water tower, Yuna Choi looked through her rifle scope. She had been a competitive shooter, specializing in extreme long range. Now she used those skills to kill. She found a Vraken that looked different from the others. It wore more armor. It carried a staff that glowed. It was giving orders. Yuna breathed out slowly, squeezed the trigger. The shot crossed almost a kilometer of distance and hit the commander in the head. It stumbled but did not fall. She fired again. Again. On the 4th shot it collapsed. The Vraken force began to break. Without their commander, without clear orders, they started falling back to the ships. Don't let them regroup, Deho shouted. He grabbed a rocket launcher that had been smuggled from Earth. The colony technically was not supposed to have military weapons. Right now, Deho did not care about regulations. He aimed at the nearest bioship and fired. The rocket hit the ship's engine. The organic vessel shuddered and began to leak green fluid. 2 more rockets hit it from different angles. The ship collapsed. The surviving Vraken warriors retreated in panic. They dragged wounded with them. They climbed onto the remaining ships. The vessels struggled into the air and fled into orbit. Deho watched them go. Around him, humans were cheering. But he did not feel like celebrating. He counted the bodies. 23 colonists dead, 40 wounded. And this was just the first attack. They will come back, Yuna said, standing next to him. I know, Deho said. And they will bring more ships next time. He was right. The news of the defeat spread through Vraken space like fire. A human colony had defeated a raiding force. It was impossible. It was shameful. The Vraken horde prepared a much larger assault. Their target was New Busan, a colony world with 3,000 human inhabitants. This time they sent 100 ships. Admiral Hyojin Song received the intelligence report in her command center aboard the carrier Incheon. She read the numbers and felt cold. 100 Vraken ships meant at least 10,000 warriors. New Busan had maybe 500 people capable of fighting. How long until they reach New Busan? She asked. 30 hours, her tactical officer replied. And how long until we get there? 28 hours. If we push the engines to maximum. Admiral Heejin looked at General Minho Kwan, who stood next to her. They had known each other for 20 years. They had served together in 3 different conflicts. She knew what he was thinking because she was thinking the same thing. We cannot save everyone, Minho said quietly, but we can make them pay. The council will have our heads for this, Heejin said. Let them try. The human expeditionary fleet consisted of 23 ships. Destroyers, frigates, carriers. None of them were as large or advanced as council military vessels. But they were built for one purpose, sustained warfare. Human ships did not have energy shields like council vessels. They had thick armor instead. They did not have faster-than-light communication. They had redundant systems that could survive massive damage. They were not elegant or impressive. They were built to take punishment and keep fighting. The fleet jumped into the New Busan system and immediately ran into the Vraken force. The aliens had already begun landing troops. The colony was under attack. All ships engage at will, Admiral Hyojin ordered. Target their landing craft first. Do not let them reinforce the ground. The battle began. Human railguns fired solid metal slugs at relativistic speeds. Vraken bioships fired plasma bursts. The two fleets crashed together like waves hitting rocks. Aboard the destroyer Seoul, Corporal Ji-hoon Nam controlled a swarm of combat drones. He had been a professional gamer before joining the military. Now he used those reflexes to guide 50 small drones through the battle. They targeted weak points on Vraken ships, engine ports, weapon emplacements, command nodes. "Got you," Ji-hoon whispered, and sent 3 drones into the exhaust port of a Vraken cruiser. They detonated inside the ship. The vessel broke apart. On the ground, New Busan's defenders were being overwhelmed. Vraken warriors pushed deeper into the colony. They were winning through sheer numbers and physical superiority. Then something happened that the Vraken had never seen before. A human medic named Dr. Sujin Han was working in a makeshift field hospital when wounded soldiers started arriving. They had lost arms, legs, suffered massive trauma. In any normal situation, these soldiers would be evacuated and sent to a proper medical facility. Dr. Sujin did not have that option, so she did something that council medical protocols strictly prohibited. She used combat stimulants, emergency surgery techniques, and kept the wounded soldiers fighting. "You have lost too much blood," she told a soldier with a torn leg. "If you go back out there, you will die." "Then I die fighting," the soldier said. She injected him with stimulants, wrapped the wound, and sent him back out. It was barbaric by galactic standards. It was necessary by human standards. The Vraken began to realize something was wrong. Human soldiers who should have been dead kept fighting. Positions that should have fallen held firm. An enemy that should have broken kept pushing forward. High above the planet, a human fighter pilot named Kyung Bae found himself in a damaged ship. His engines were failing. His weapons were empty. Escape pods were offline. He was going to die. Through his canopy, he could see a Vraken command ship. It was coordinating the entire assault. If that ship fell, the Vraken force would lose cohesion. Kyung did not hesitate. He aimed his dying fighter at the command ship and pushed the throttle to maximum. "For humanity," he said quietly and smiled. The fighter hit the command ship at full speed. Both vessels exploded. The Vraken fleet immediately fell into chaos. Without coordination, ships began pulling back. Ground forces lost direction. The humans pressed their advantage. Every gun fired. Every ship advanced. Every soldier charged. The Vraken force broke and fled. They left behind thousands of dead warriors and dozens of destroyed ships. In orbit, Admiral Heejin watched the enemy retreat. Around her, her crew was cheering. But she felt exhausted. They had won. But the cost had been terrible. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council Observer Post. They want to know what just happened." Heejin thought about all the protocols they had broken, all the council regulations they had ignored, the casualties they had taken that any civilized species would consider unacceptable. "Tell them," she said, "that humanity just handled its own problems." The council observer station hung in the darkness between stars. Inside, 3 alien observers watched the holographic display with expressions that ranged from confusion to shock. The Quillari analyst, a creature with 6 thin limbs and compound eyes, replayed the battle footage for the 7th time. Its mandibles clicked nervously as it processed what it had seen. "This is not logical," it said. The human forces took 43% casualties in that engagement. Any civilized species would have withdrawn after 20% losses. They kept fighting. The luminary observer floated nearby, its body of pure energy flickering with what might have been concern. They also violated 18 separate council warfare protocols. They used chemical stimulants on wounded soldiers. They deliberately destroyed their own infrastructure to trap enemy forces. One of their pilots committed suicide to destroy a single ship. "And they won," said the Kryn military observer. Unlike its companions, the massive reptilian creature sounded almost impressed. Against a force 5 times their size with inferior biology, they won decisively. "The Vraken fleet has retreated from the entire frontier sector." "That cannot be accurate," the Quillari said. "The Vraken have never retreated from any territory. They conquered the Pelthian cluster in only 3 months. They broke the Goron defense lines in days. They have never fought humans before," the Kryn said simply. The luminary observer pulsed with bright light, the equivalent of raising its voice. "This is barbaric. We must report this to the council immediately. Humanity must be sanctioned. These tactics are not warfare, they are Effective, the Kryn finished. The word you are looking for is effective. Back on Earth in the military command center beneath Geneva, General Minho Quan stood before a holographic map of human space. Red dots showed Vrakan positions. Blue dots showed human forces. In the past month, every red dot in the frontier sector had disappeared. They are avoiding us now, Admiral Hyojin reported. Our scouts report that Vrakan ships change course when they detect human vessels. They are calling us something in their language. Our translators are having trouble with the exact meaning, but it is something like the species that does not stop, or those who burn but do not break. Good, Minho said. Let them be afraid. Sir, we have received a formal summons from the Galactic Council, an aide said nervously. They are demanding we cease all military operations immediately and submit to a tribunal for warfare violations. Minho looked at the young woman. Send a reply. Tell them we will attend their tribunal, but we will not stop defending our people. Sir, if we ignore council directives, they could impose sanctions. They could cut off all trade. We depend on galactic commerce for advanced technology, medical supplies, rare elements. I am aware of what we depend on. Minho cut her off. I am also aware that the council was willing to let our people die while they debated proper procedures. We will deal with the consequences. But we will not stop fighting. On the frontier world of New Seoul, Colonel Dae-ho Kim walked through the rebuilt settlement. After the successful defense of New Jeju, he had been promoted and given command of frontier defense operations. Now he trained colonists on multiple worlds in how to fight. A young man approached him. His name was Jae-hyun No, and he had been a cargo ship pilot before the war started. Colonel, I heard the council wants to put us on trial. What happens if they find humanity guilty? Dae-ho stopped walking and looked at the young pilot. Then we are guilty. But our people are alive. That is what matters. Is it true what they say? That humans do not know when to quit? Dae-ho smiled grimly. It is true. We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we are the most stubborn. When a Vrakan warrior gets hurt, its instinct tells it to retreat and heal. When a human gets hurt, we just get angry. Meanwhile, deep in space, a human intelligence vessel detected something that changed everything. Captain Ji-1-0 was in command of the stealth ship Shadow. Her mission was to track Vrakan movements and gather intelligence. What she found made her blood run cold. Get me a secure line to Admiral Song, she ordered. Priority 1. Immediate. Hours later, Ji-1 stood in a holographic conference with the entire human military command. Her face was pale. They are gathering a massive fleet, she said. We intercepted their communications. The Vrakan leadership has decided that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to survive. They are assembling every available warship for a single mission, the complete destruction of Earth. Silence filled the conference room. How many ships? Admiral Hyojin asked quietly. Current count is 300 bioships. They are still gathering more. Intelligence suggests they will attack within 2 weeks. 300 ships. The largest military force the Vrakan had ever assembled. The entire human defense fleet consisted of 87 vessels. We cannot win this, someone said. It was a statement of fact, not cowardice. We cannot win in a straight battle, Minho agreed. So we do not fight a straight battle. We make them come to us. We turn Earth's system into a trap. Sir, even with home field advantage, we will be outnumbered more than 3-1. Then we make sure each of our ships is worth 4 of theirs. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth's solar system became a fortress. Every available weapon platform was deployed. Millions of mines were scattered in carefully calculated patterns. Fighter squadrons practiced attack runs until the pilots could fly them with their eyes closed. But everyone knew it would not be enough. On Earth, people watched the skies and waited. News broadcasts showed the preparations. Everyone knew what was coming. Some people panicked. Some prayed. Some simply went about their lives, refusing to show fear. In a small apartment in Seoul, an old woman named Min Seo Lim held her grandson on her lap. He was only 5 years old. He did not understand what was happening. Grandmother, are the monsters coming? He asked. Yes, little one, she said softly. But our soldiers will protect us. What if the soldiers cannot stop them? Min Seo thought about her son, who was a private in the defense force stationed on Mars. She thought about her daughter, who was a medic with the fleet. She thought about all the young people who were about to die protecting Earth. Then we will die knowing that we never surrendered, she said. That is what it means to be human. Aboard the flagship Incheon, Admiral Heejin stood on the bridge and watched the long-range sensors. The Vraken fleet would arrive in 6 hours. 6 hours until the largest battle in human history. General Minho stood beside her. Do you remember what we talked about back at the academy? About what we would do if we ever faced impossible odds. We said we would face them standing up, Heejin replied. I was 19 years old. I thought it sounded brave and romantic, and now? Now I know it just sounds like the truth. Minho nodded. He picked up the communications handset that would broadcast to every human ship, station, and defensive platform in the system. Warriors of Earth, he said. His voice was steady and calm. In a few hours, we will face an enemy that wants to destroy everything we love. They think we are weak. They think our fragile bodies and short lives make us easy to defeat. They are wrong. He paused, looking out at the stars. We are human. We climbed out of caves and built cities. We survived ice ages and plagues. We fought wars against ourselves and still found ways to make peace. We have fallen and risen again 1,000 times. Today we will show the galaxy what that means. Another pause. The Vraken are stronger than us. They are tougher. They heal faster, but they have never faced an enemy that refuses to break. They have never fought a species that would rather die standing than live kneeling. Today they learn what happens when you corner the most stubborn species in the galaxy. He looked at the sensor display showing the approaching fleet. They want to burn us to ash? Let them try. Because from ash we always rise. All ships, battle stations. Show them why humanity survived when stronger species went extinct. Show them that we are not weak. We are not prey. We are humans and we do not quit. Across the fleet, on stations, in defensive bunkers on Earth, millions of humans heard those words. Some cried. Some checked their weapons. Some simply nodded because they already knew the truth. Humans were fragile. Humans were mortal. Humans could be killed. But humans could not be broken. The Vraken fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 300 bioships, dark and terrible, began their approach to Earth. They were met by 87 human vessels and a solar system full of weapons, traps, and people who had decided that death was preferable to surrender. The Battle of Sol was about to begin. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called without proper notice. Representatives from 12 species materialized in the chamber through holographic projection, many of them looking confused or annoyed at being summoned so urgently. The Quillari Chancellor stood at the center, its compound eyes reflecting the light in strange patterns. This council is now in session. We are here to address the matter of humanity's continued military operations in violation of their protected civilian species status. Ambassador Jinho Park stood in the human delegation area, but he was not alone this time. General Minho Quan stood beside him, wearing his full military uniform with medals from 3 separate conflicts. Behind them stood Colonel Daeho Kim, his uniform still dirty from frontier combat. The human delegation will explain their actions, the Chancellor demanded. Jinho stepped forward, but Minho put a hand on his shoulder and shook his head. The general walked to the center of the chamber himself. I will explain our actions, Minho said. His voice echoed through the huge room. 6 months ago, this council declared humanity too weak to defend itself. You told us to focus on trade and culture. You told us that warfare was beyond our capability. That assessment was based on scientific data, a Luminary representative said. Your species lacks the physical characteristics necessary for effective combat. And yet, Minho continued, in the past 3 months, human forces have pushed the Vraken horde completely out of our frontier territories. The same Vraken that your species have failed to stop for a decade. Angry murmurs spread through the council chamber. Your tactics are barbaric. The Luminary representative's voice rose. You use wounded soldiers as combatants. You commit suicide attacks. You destroy your own infrastructure. These methods violate every civilized warfare protocol. Civilized warfare, Minho repeated. Tell me, honored representative, how many of your people have died while you practiced civilized warfare against the Vraken? How many planets have you evacuated? How many refugees have fled from systems you could not protect? The Luminary did not answer. A new voice spoke up. It was the Velton Consortium representative, a species that looked like floating jellyfish. The economic data supports the human general's point. In the past decade, the Council has spent 4 trillion credits on refugee relocation and defensive measures against the Vraken. Human methods, while crude, have been significantly more cost-effective. This is not about economics, the luminary said. This is about the rules of civilized behavior. Civilized behavior, Colonel Deho spoke for the first time. I watched 50,000 civilians die while waiting for your civilized behavior to protect them. I watched children burned alive while your council debated proper protocols. The chamber fell silent. You measured our claws and teeth, Deho continued, his voice hard. You looked at our biology and decided we were weak. You forgot to measure our will. You forgot that the weakest creature can be the most dangerous when it has nothing left to lose. The Kryn Empire representative stood. The massive reptilian warrior towered over even the elevated platforms. The human makes a valid point. We have focused too much on biological superiority and not enough on tactical effectiveness. The Vraken are individually superior to humans in every physical measure, and yet they are now terrified of human space. Because humans fight like animals, the luminary protested. No, the Kryn said. Because humans fight like survivors. There is a difference, Captain G10 stepped forward. She was young, only 28, but her eyes looked much older. With respect, honored council, we did not come here to debate philosophy. We came to inform you of something more urgent. She activated her datapad. A holographic display appeared showing the massive Vraken fleet. 300 Vraken warships are currently heading toward Earth. They will arrive in approximately 90 hours. The Vraken leadership has decided that humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to survive. They intend to destroy our homeworld. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded proof. Others called for immediate council intervention. Order! The chancellor's voice buzzed above the noise. Order! Captain, is this intelligence verified? Yes, Chancellor. We have intercepted multiple communications and tracked ship movements. This is not a raid. This is an extermination fleet. Then the council must act, said a representative from the peaceful Delmar species. We cannot allow genocide. The council does not have the military strength to stop a fleet that size, the Kryn general said bluntly. Not without months of preparation and coordination. The humans will face this alone. Then we ask nothing from you, Minho said. We came here not to beg for help, but to make you understand something. When this is over, when we have either survived or died, you will know that humanity did not fail because we were weak. If we fall, it will be because we stood alone. You will not survive, the Quillari chancellor said quietly. 300 ships against your fleet is mathematically impossible, even with your unconventional tactics, and perhaps, Minho agreed. But they will remember us. The Vraken will remember that the weak species made them afraid. And if we die, we will die knowing we never surrendered. He turned to leave, but the Kryn general called out, Human general, if I may speak plainly? Minho stopped and looked back. Your species fascinates me. We Kryn have always valued strength. We have the thickest armor, the strongest claws, the most powerful warriors. But watching humanity fight has taught me something. True strength is not about what you are born with. It is about what you refuse to lose. The general paused, then did something shocking. He raised his clawed hand to his chest in what was, for the Kryn, a gesture of deep respect usually reserved only for equals. I cannot help you. My government would never approve. But know this, if humanity survives, the Kryn will remember, and we will never call you weak again. Minho returned the gesture as best he could, then walked out of the council chamber. Jinho and the other humans followed. Outside in the corridor, Jinho finally spoke. That accomplished nothing. They will not help us. I did not expect them to help, Minho said. But I wanted them to watch. I wanted them to see what happens when they underestimate humanity. Back on Earth, preparations continued. Every available weapon was moved into position. Civilian ships were being retrofitted with whatever weapons could be mounted. Volunteers were flooding recruitment centers. In a military hospital in Tokyo, Dr. Sujin Han was training civilian doctors in combat medicine. Most of them looked sick at what she was teaching them. If the fleet fails, the Vraken will come to Earth, she explained. You will need to treat injuries that would be considered fatal. You will need to keep people fighting past the point where they should be dead. I know this seems wrong, but it is necessary. An older doctor raised his hand. This is not medicine. This is torture. This is survival, Sujin said firmly. When the Vraken come, they will not follow your medical ethics. They will kill everyone. Your patients, your families, everyone. So yes, we will use stimulants that damage the heart. We will perform surgeries without proper anesthesia. We will do terrible things, because being alive and damaged is better than being dead. On Mars, Private Minseo Lim checked her rifle for the 100th time. She was stationed on the defensive platforms that orbited the Red Planet. If the Vraken made it past the main fleet, Mars would be the second line of defense. She was 19 years old. Before the war, she had been studying literature at university. She had wanted to be a writer. Now she wrote letters to her family that she might never get to send. Her squad leader, a veteran named Sunho Kang, sat down next to her.
First battle.
Yes, sir. Scared? Terrified, sir. Sunho nodded. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember your training. And remember that every Vraken ship you help destroy is one less ship that reaches Earth. Sir, do you think we can win? Sunho was quiet for a long moment. I think we can make them wish they had never attacked us. Sometimes that is enough. Across human space, on ships and stations, in bunkers and defensive positions, millions of people prepared for the battle that would decide everything. They checked weapons, said goodbye to loved ones, and made peace with the possibility of death. But not one of them considered surrender. In orbit around Earth, Major Yunbi commanded the surface-to-space artillery network. Thousands of massive railguns pointed toward the sky, waiting. She had been a physics professor before the war. She understood the mathematics of what they faced. The odds were impossible. The Vraken had too many ships, too much firepower, too much everything. But math did not account for will. Math did not measure the determination of a species that had survived extinction events, ice ages, and its own worst impulses. All stations, this is Major Yu. She broadcast to her network. Final systems check. In approximately 72 hours, the Vraken fleet will arrive. They will expect us to break. They will expect us to run. They will expect us to beg for mercy. She looked out at the planet below, at the billions of lives depending on them. They have never been more wrong about anything. Let us show them what humans do when we are cornered. We do not break. We do not run. We do not beg, we fight. And if we die taking as many of them with us as possible.